I'd just like to speak today about carers allowance. So, in the world of disabilities that we live in, I find an awful lot of our families try to claim for carers allowance, only to find they are turned down. There's so much terminology around the whole lot of it. It's very hard for parents to understand. So, could you explain, just in plain English, what is carers allowance?
Carers allowance is a payment to parents who reduce their hours to 18 and a half hours or less, or maybe have to stop work and become a full-time carer. The thing with carers allowance, it's a weekly payment, but the thing to note about it, it is means tested. And that's the thing where you talk about there now, parents getting refused or getting reduction or may qualify for the full. So again, they have to produce a financial statement. And the other main criteria as well is your child, it must be a medical criteria in the sense there must be a need for full-time care. But that is the one that most of parents find very easy to do, because once you have domiciliary or disability allowance, then that section is taken care of. Then they only just really focus on the means testing part to carers allowance.
Okay, so what is the means test for carers allowance, Alan?
It's a nightmare. That's what it is. It's actually very, very tough. It's very tough on parents. It's as a couple, what they'll first of all do is look at your salaries. So look at income coming into the family. So generally your salaries, they'll combine it as a couple, or if you're a single parent, obviously just one salary. And for the combined salary, once you're under 663 a week, you can get access to your carers allowance. However, if you're over that, there'll be a sliding scale. And then there's a certain point, once the couple's income is over, we say like 1,000, it'll be a certain kind of number, then you won't get any carers allowance, even though you might provide substantial care. They're not really interested. They're just wanting to know, can you pass this means testing? Now, for a single parent, it's 332 a week. Now, a slight kind of good news on that, they are reviewing all this, and they're announcing the budget that now, as a couple, you can earn up to 750 a week, and as a single parent, it's 350. But don't get too excited, because all the feedback I'm getting from my families is everybody's starting to get means tested again, going forward. So that's the first section. Now we keep going. It's not just that. They also want to see, have you got any savings or investments or assets, like a second property? A lot of parents become accidental landlords, or they might have a holiday home. That kind of thing as well. That is all taken in as assets. And again, now it's up to 40,000, but this new fabulous increase in means testing will be 50,000 from kind of June onwards. So they're the kind of criteria. What salary do you have, and do you have other assets? And that's the main kind of calculations.
I think it's very hard to have it so generalized when I know parents are up all night minding their children and the amount of care they give, but none of that's taken into consideration, is it?
What you're going to, it'll probably, to be fair, I think this is one of the last major things that I think, people just don't get. The department don't understand. As you said there now, something up yesterday, and they were just describing to me, they need so much nursing care for their child at home. It's impossible for them to get that kind of care package. So they have no choice for him to give up his full-time job and become a full-time carer, and for his wife to reduce down to like 3, maybe 4 days she might be able to do, because they obviously need to keep swapping. And as I said, and that carers allowance is all means tested. And if she works and she earns over this, we talked about the 750 figure, they're just going to go no. Do you know what I mean? They'll just say no, no matter what.
And how much will they receive now, say, if they go on carers allowance, Alan?
The payment is about 225 a week, and there's a slight increase depending on the size of your family. So if you have 2 or 3 other children, you can get a slight increase. So that's what your payment is. Now, if you care for more than 2 children with additional needs, which a lot of our families actually have, what you get there is you only get 1.5 times. You don't get double. You only get 1.5 times. So if you have 3 or 4 children with additional needs, you only get 1.5 times, which is like 337 a week. It's somewhere around that kind of figure. And as I said, plus the slight increase, depending on the size of your family.
Okay. And can parents who are, say, self-employed, even for those 18.5 hours a week, can they qualify for carers allowance?
Yeah, not an awful lot do, directors, but you can, again, if you meet all the criteria, this kind of, as your child domiciliary disability allowance, your total income from your family, your savings, again, directors or self-employed people, they can. Now, they just find it more tricky because they have to prove, it's easy enough to get a letter from your employer to say you work, your contract would probably say 16 hours, or your contract would say But again, what the parents, I would say to my parents, I would often say, just get a letter from your accountant or somebody just to show the proof that you do, work less. Because again, if you work more than 18 and a half hours, or even if you go and do a course and do an education thing for more than 18 and a half hours, the department then quickly turn around and say, oh, you're not a full-time carer, so therefore you've no access to carer's allowance, even if you meet the means testing.
And, for some people, that might be a little bit of an escape route for them to do that course, or to maybe set up their own business, however small.
Yeah, but again, it's very restrictive. It's like a lot of things in this whole area. Here's the rules. You got to play by the rules. You got to stay within that limits. And the minute you step above those limits, then they just basically stop your case. They basically stop your application.
Yeah, I think it's very, very hard for parents really to find that balance, and because they only want to mind their children, but they do come from a life where they have worked.
Yeah,
and they might want to continue that just for themselves, even.
And even the extra bit of income, because what you find there, the extra income, if they were working, they could be contributing to their future pension, they could be contributing in general,
Or they could just be having a life, Alan, of some kind, a little bit. A question I get asked all the time, and I still actually find it difficult. What's the difference between carer's allowance and carer's benefit?
Okay, see the carer's allowance, the one we described there, the means testing, there's a similar payment, again, similar 225, similar, but it's called carer's benefit. Now that is more based on your PRSI, as we see in Cork, we stamps by. So that's
You're showing your age there now, Alan.
I certainly am. So if you have sufficient PRSI, what you can do is you can reduce your hours at work again to 18 and a half or less. Now, again, there's a slight means testing. It's a very small one. For those reduced hours, you can't earn over 332 for your working hours. And again, that's rare. 90% of jobs, when you reduce your hours to 18 and a half hours less, then you obviously, your income for that week from your salary is always kind of under to 332. But what you have in the carer's benefit, you only have a 2-year, you have a 104-week period where you can take it. And as I said, it's not kind of really means tested. You can have as much savings as you want, or you can have other assets. It's the PRSI is your main part to get that. And that's how you get the carer's benefit then.
And if people got the carer's benefit, say for the 2 years after the 40 weeks, as you said, can they then claim carer's allowance after that if they wanted?
If they can meet the criteria for the carer's allowance. Now, however, it probably, if you can qualify for the carer's benefit and the carer's allowance at the same time, always take carer's allowance. And the reason for that is, remember I told you that kind of limiting 2-year period?
Yes.
So always kind of keep that up your sleeve, keep that in the background. And the other thing as well, when you claim carer's allowance, you get additional things you wouldn't get from the carer's benefit, such as the household benefit package, a travel pass for the actual carer, not for the child, for the actual carer. So again, if you qualify for both, I always say to my families when I kind of speak to them, I'd say, look, stay on the carer's, or actually stop your carer's benefit now and apply for the carer's allowance. And that would be a better route, because you can get that for far longer. You don't have this 2-year restrictive kind of thing.
And I think it's very interesting too that people should be told when they do qualify for carer's allowance, they do get this, and this. And carer's benefit, they do get, I don't think, I know for myself, for many social workers I dealt with in David's life, I was never told those things.
There, you'd love to live in a nice world, wouldn't you?
Nice world, just where we're told, because I have to say, and I don't want to take you from what you're talking about. No. So the free travel pass came for me, you see, instead of David. I thought it should have been for David.
No.
And I remember at a time, I was afraid to ring them to say they got the wrong name on it, because I didn't want it to be another thing taken off, But
you're dead right. I see it all the time. Yesterday I had a consultation, and for 5 years they weren't getting the care support grant because of stopping the child 16, and they didn't know. Nobody informed them that you were still entitled. And as you said, it's all the time now. Again, we do have that entitlement booklet. Get onto citizens information. Do try it and just even double check, because it's always out there. Household benefit package is another one I see on a regular basis that parents often don't claim over the age of 16. That they don't realize. You just, so again, as you said, nobody's right. Nobody's telling them, we're obviously trying our best, but we don't get to everybody. We're trying to get our best to get everybody to know these things.
And I think I remember what you said to me years ago, and I think it benefited me anyway. And I think it would for other parents as well. So I think when we're busy and we're doing lots of therapy and we're going different places with our children, and it's a constant draw, or you may have other children and it is busy. But to give yourself 1 hour a week just to sit down to say, what else could I be doing, claiming? What else for other forms do I need to fill in? Just to give yourself that hour. And I remember you said it to me when we were writing a letter of wishes, and I was saying, I don't have time. It's all this. And you said Wednesday for an hour, you can do it, an hour and a half, and come back to it the following Wednesday. And that worked. And I think when people don't know what they could be claiming for, I don't know, just have that hour, maybe to contact somebody, or maybe to just Google it to see, are they getting those things?
Yeah. And as you said, that hour, it could be only 1 hour a year. You just need to look at your entitlements. Or if your situation changes, this is another time that you would look into it. So again, in general, you should hopefully have, because everything you leave behind, obviously, you just can't get it back type scenario.
And the workbook that we have as well is quite handy with that, because there's a little part for questions. Have you claimed this? Can you? Don't,
We sound like David. We sound like David. No, we sound like we're fabulous. Like.
Well, you know what? No, but I'm just giving anyone any tools that.
Yeah, the workbook is there.
That was handy for me. Do you know what I mean? So I could, I haven't got that at all. And that might be something that Wednesday, say, I can go back to check. Should I be claiming it? Could I?
No, but
so what do we do with parents who actually can't pass the means tested for carers allowance?
It's very black and white. If your income is over, your assets or savings are over, unfortunately, as I said, there is a sliding scale where you might get the full 225, you might get a partial payment, but it comes to zero. And once it hits zero, then other than what you mentioned a second ago, the carers benefit, there is no, unfortunate alternative. They just assume that you earn too much, which is a bit ridiculous. But that's it.
Okay. And how long can parents continue to claim then for carers allowance, Alan?
Well, you can have it for years. Once you meet that criteria, you could have it for years and years. And now I know an awful lot of our families, they'd never have it during their working career because the salaries just would be too high. But then when they come to retirement, they can actually get the carers allowance at that point. Even though they never got it before, they can get their state pension, and it's a half rate they can get as well. And you can't get two social welfare payments, but you can end up with 1.5. So again, carers allowance can always be there once you meet the criteria.
And just again for me, what other additional entitlements can parents get when they actually have the carers allowance?
So you have the carers allowance, the household benefit package, as you said there, what you got as well. You were entitled to the travel pass. The carer gets the travel pass as well at that side of it. And then of course you have the kind of care support grant. You have the GP visit card. So there's a good bit that comes in when you get the carers allowance. And again, just get the application form. You can download it from Citizens Information, or they can post it out to you, or gov.ie. You'll get the form there. And as I said, but if you do have any questions, do send them through to us. As I said, we'd hate for parents not to kind of have what they're meant to have. So always kind of feel free to kind of come back to us on that side.
And Alan, like in 2022 here now in Ireland, how long does it take for this carers allowance for new parents, say, to process it? Can it be backdated?
Not really. It's very rare to see backdate unless you had a substantial, reason why it is backdated. This is why we're saying to parents, get the form off as quick as you can. Even if you're missing a couple of bits of information, the date they receive your application, that'll be the date forward that they'll pay for. So it is important that you get it off, copy it, send it in, and then forward in whatever's missing. If you have a doctor's part or something that's missing, get that application off as soon as, because as I said, it's all date of application. It's rare to hear any of the families. And at the process, now they say 5 or 6 weeks, but generally I hear back from our families about 12 weeks before they really kind of get this kind of whole thing processed and sorted for them.
Okay, and we know we hear an awful lot now in the news and from our parents that it's all been reviewed. So how do you feel about that, Alan?
Shocking. What you find actually, the reviews are actually very worrying. We get it, I'd get calls here now, and it's a lot upsetting. Do you know what I mean? You're hanging in there, you're just about managing. Next, you get a letter to say you need to, we're going to review your carers. And the review is for one thing only. The reviews obviously can, are you still eligible? Are they to kind of reduce or stop your kind of carers allowance? And again, you'll have to get all those information together. Again, as I don't, they're not more on the medical criteria, it's all the financial numbers. So again, get all your pay slips, your bank statements and all that, and send it in, and fingers crossed. And as I said, just one last thing before we kind of finish, if you got reduced carers allowance, or if you got reviewed previously and got reduced, remember now this June 2022, it will go up slightly. So again, maybe get onto citizen information. They have the calculators, give them all your information, and then fingers crossed, hopefully a number of our families now start to get more payments, or maybe get back on the ladder to getting a partial payment. And again, hopefully that will help families out there today.
And just the last note there for parents. So anyone who hasn't applied for carers allowance, what's their first step, Alan, to do?
The first step is the form. First step, member of citizen information, just get the form from them or go, just download it, have a look at it. Now it is a big form, get some headspace, get ready to fill it. And then, as you said, you just start collecting the pay slips, bank statements, all the other kind of information you're going to need to fill it in, but get it off. Don't let it go for weeks and weeks and weeks. Just get it off. And as I said, as much information as you had to hand, and then follow in with all the kind of the parts that you're missing.
Okay, fabulous. I think you've given us a lot of things there to think about. So thank you for that, Alan.
No bother.